NFTs suck.
I agree. Feel free. Thank you, Benji.
It's the thing everyone talks about, but no one does. Hi, thanks for being here. I know almost all of you, so appreciate you being here. I'm going to talk about a couple. Well, so.
Hey, I'm going to hang up.
No, just put it on speaker.
It was
Do you need a second?
1% of future earnings, so this confirmed.
Okay, good. All right. So, in one sense, I shouldn't have to give a lot of this as a talk, but I'm going to anyway. I also realized when looking at the side, there's going to be a couple slides that won't make that may be a little too small, but I'm going to talk through them. If I talk too quickly, put a hand up and say you're talking too quickly, because that's a thing of mine. And I've been given 5 minutes, which is longer than I had, so this is vamping. And I'm going to share some stories that, well, some war stories, we'll put it that way. Okay, so hi, I'm Benji. I used to sing in bands. I used to manage the bar that we were outside right there as well. And those are the two co-alcoholics with me and one sober guy. We had some massive highs, to quote the Hold Steady. And as you can see, I'm massively high there. And we had some crushing lows. This was the ultimate show where I was invited to play not 1, not 2, but 3 sets starting at 11 p.m., ending at 1 o'clock in the morning at Gladman's Den in Toronto to exactly 4 people. I was, however, slipped a $50 bill by a very kind gentleman who was very happy. Rawhide was a packed show, so there's that. Then in 2009, I built my first startup. I should have put massive highs and crushing lows on that one. And then in my first blockchain startup in 2016. And we even made an NFT in February of 2016. Don't look for it, it's not there anymore. Slight problem with the NFT is that the architecture kind of sucks. So if you look for that NFT, it is not findable anymore. I now work with an epic team at our company called Lark42. We work with, advise, and help to build companies in Webs 1, 2, 3, especially in music and media. We've actually done some gaming stuff and we've got some sort of broader context. Come on in, please. Economy Delights right here. As you can see, Web3, you're going to see some skeptical emojis on here a few times, because that's how we roll. Early on, everything, we had a big hammer, everything looked like a nail. And at the moment, I think we're suffering from a bit of the same of that. However, I wanted to talk really about what have we learned. And this is as a team and myself collectively in all this time. All music is funded by fans. It's really easy to say, but the number of artists who actually get this, I can count on my fingers. They don't understand this concept. They believe that music should be funded by anybody but themselves. And they get these strange looks when you say, oh no, actually you should figure out how much your fans are willing to pay to watch you perform, how much your fans are willing to pay for your music. So we mustn't confuse music being offered poorly with people not wanting to buy it. And if all music is funded by fans, then that means that we can assume a certain number of things. And if all music is funded by fans, and yet, of the 8 million artists on Spotify, 13,000 of them make over 47,500 euros a year from streaming. That's not superb. So what's interesting, and I framed this talk in the context of the music startup ecosystem, is trying to get to those 13,000 is what every startup is trying to do. But you have millions of others who are completely available, who can build perfectly awesome businesses if you allow them to. And streaming is not how most artists will make a living. It's not going to happen. That's a really hard thing to say to artists. Because they're saying, but wait, I can easily get 350 million streams a year. Not so much. So streaming is not how most artists will make a living, and yet streaming is where most artists send their fans. And this is my favorite illustration of it, which is, hi, I'm a big fan of your music. I'd like to support you with money. Thanks. Please give your money to Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Okay, if you say so. Oh. If only Spotify, Apple, and YouTube paid more. That's literally what I have seen play out since 2009, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And the number of panels and ink that has been spilt on this ridiculousness drives me out of my mind. But wait, it gets worse. Most artists also focus on sending their fans to Meta equals Instagram, Meta equals Facebook, ByteDance equals TikTok, Twitter equals Elon Musk, YouTube equals Google, Snapchat, etc. And so help to build Meta equals Instagram, Meta equals Facebook, ByteDance equals TikTok, Twitter equals Musk, etc. So artists are effectively helping to build these platforms as well as streaming platforms and not thinking about themselves. So in building these platforms, they also become dependent on them. And that dependency is really hard to break. When you talk to artists about not posting to these platforms, it's like talking to an addict. I know from firsthand, oh, I can't quit, I gotta just check, oh, I got some reach on that post. So it's one of those things. So if all music is funded by fans, we need to think of the artist as the platform. And I used platform in the context of a tech startup building a platform. And not just any old platform, but a platform with more revenue streams than most platforms. So when you think about the context of all of the revenue streams that artists can potentially bring to the table, whether it be vinyl and CDs, merch and custom merch, co-writing, membership plans, artist experiences, downloads, private gigs, streams, TV and sync, tickets and rehearsals, headline tours, festivals, custom films and videos, backstage tickets, tourism experiences, brand partnerships, it goes on. And most of the time that Lean Square or other VCs look at a startup, they'll say, well, what's your revenue stream? And they'll be like, well, we have to enter a market that involves 13,000 of the top artists on the face of the planet, convince them to use our system, and then get fans to pay for it somehow, and compete with Spotify and Meta and YouTube and Google. So in one sense, an artist is actually, once they reach a certain point, if they can build that platform, they become an extremely investable opportunity. And this slide here comes from our man in the field who run through the Rattles Accelerator program. And this is from their Series A fundraising deck. Why? Because they're a platform. Because the singer thinks about how he reaches his fans, and he's not relying on Spotify, and they're not relying on these other places to do so. They've taken it in their own hands. They know who their fans are. So if all music is funded by fans, and the artist is the platform, then companies that create tools that empower music creators to directly engage with and monetize their audiences will win. That's where the true innovation should be focused. That's where the investment dollars and euros and pounds should be focused as well. So what else have we learned? If you suck at Web 2, right, which is the social web, email, etc., then you most likely don't need to be in Web 3. And Web 3 is the most glorious rebranding of crypto. It is stunning. Web 3 is now metaverse. Web 3 is 500 different things, right? So again, in 2016, it was crypto, and crypto was a bad word. Like, if you wanted to, bring up this sort of the ugly thing in the room, it was like, oh well, he's working on a cryptocurrency startup, so be careful there. So, what does the blockchain bring to the party? Let's just do a couple of little. I won't dwell on this, but in 2017, William Mugair published the acid test for tokens, right? And this is the framework in which I evaluate almost every single Web3 crypto project. Number one, what would happen without the token? Can you build a business in the absence of this stupid thing? Number two, why do you need a blockchain? Blockchains are really fucking hard to work with. Really difficult. I know. Everything that you try and develop costs more using them, right? And you get a series of privacy and non-privacy issues. And then what is the blockchain enabling that wasn't possible before? This is critical. Now, I am a fan of decentralization, and I am a fan of blockchains. However, they have really specific use cases that we need to consider. So, some other big questions that you need to be asking before you do Web3. Is that a typo? It was late, sorry. I sent it to Jerome this morning, literally. What does anonymity bring to the party? Does anyone here know who Satoshi Nakamoto is? No, but it was important to Satoshi Nakamoto that you don't know who he was. So if you're building your Bored Ape metaverse on this idea that anonymity is important, and all of a sudden you can sell your memberships to a bunch of anonymous people, that might not go the way you want it to. Right? So we need to think very carefully about this collective ownership concept where anonymity is a piece. The second thing is, does financialization make anything that I want to do better? And specifically with NFTs. Because what a lot of the NFT platforms have done is gone to artists and creators and said, hey, sell your fans the ability to make money off of what you do. And what you're doing is you're saying to your fans, enter into a financial relationship with me that can have win and loss. So then there's metaverse, right? So everyone's like, hey, Web3 equals metaverse, right? So most of it looks pretty shitty. There's some very interesting stuff going on. And I took this from Ralph Koster's presentation. And Ralph Koster's been building in the metaverses for a long time, I think 20, 30 years. And he made some really interesting points as they apply to gaming, and I think we can use the same thing. So crappy UGC and mudflation play to earn, right? So here are some things from painful experience. And also you'll notice the key issues are social, not technical. So players do not want to govern themselves. It's a lot of work. So again, this idea of we want to give everyone ownership, that's not necessarily what they want. We think they might want it if they are into the financialization of everything and incentivized by tokens that will go up in value. Open platforms mostly result in a bunch of crappy clone worlds. I think giving artists the ability to build their own worlds could be really interesting. Think of the Squarespace of the metaverse. That's a really cool space to go to. Real world earning power from players always collapses to less than local minimum wages. And we're seeing this play out in multiple of these types of games. Persistent tradable items always crash your economy. So remember this idea that, ooh, if I have an NFT, I can move it around over to here. Okay, but what does that do to your economy? Do people want to show off their NFTs in one metaverse or the other? Or is it better in an exclusive place? Similarly speaking, can I go see a gig in a special place that's only for me? Players mostly don't want item portability. They don't want to drag things between games. That's not the point. I don't want to have a Roblox experience in something that Mark Zuckerberg owns, created, or touched. And yeah, so 99% of Web3 is bullshit, and 99% of NFTs are bullshit. But the 1% is fucking amazing. It's really, really cool. And we're going to see extraordinary projects built. But the issue is going to be that most of what you see is bullshit. It's bullshit through lack of understanding. It's bullshit for perverse incentives. There's an entire economy in saying, my NFTs are the best NFTs because NFTs are amazing. Remember, the platform makes money either way. If you buy it for 100 and it sells for 2, the platform made money on the way. Ethereum's founders made money on the way. Again, not to bash Ethereum, but let's face it, if you buy something for $15 and you have to spend $300 to move it from one wallet to another, what was the blockchain for? So, am I talking too fast? Nope, good, okay. Fans want artists to more directly engage with them. Think return on attention versus return on investment. I cannot state enough how important this is, because when I was building my first company, 3 platforms that were attempting to make investments in artists work, minus the tokens, just in regular stock, came to me and said, we made a mistake, we should have gone the way you went, which was with engagement. So wherever the artist focuses their attention, they need to focus on what the return on that attention is, and that's in dollars and data. Yes, but NFTs. Okay, so as of 2021, there are around 360,000 NFT owners, right? 360,000 people. Now remember, there was 8 million creators on Spotify, 13,000 of whom make a living. So 9% of the total group were 80% of the market value. So with your VC hat on, the total addressable market here is not massive. And a lot of assumptions are made, but this is what fans want. They want little digital pictures they can carry around. They want them to unlock experiences, maybe. But you can do all of that in Web 2. Web 3 does not bring much to the party. Who woke up and said, I want this? Whenever I evaluate technology, whether we're going to work with them or start one myself, I ask this. Who woke up and said, you know what I really want? I want a picture of an ape that I can put on my profile. Now, some did. But a lot of them, these were prospectors. And remember that most of the people buying these platforms were either incredibly wealthy or made a huge amount of money on the way up in the crypto markets. If you bought Ethereum for at the ICO price, you've won. Ripple, you've won. Print more of them if you want. Doesn't matter, right? So the people that were buying at that massive level printed money for years. And now all of a sudden, as the price starts crashing down, it's the greater fool left holding the bag. I was on the phone with a guy, and he's like, I just got my Bored Ape. I'm so excited, I'm in. And I was like, awesome, man. I was like, what'd you pay? He said, I paid full price. And I said, oh. I said, I would sell that thing. In December, this was. I said, I'd sell that thing. I really would. But they're going to launch a currency. I'm in. Like, I can go to the restaurant. I don't even have to pay. I'm like, okay. And he's pretty upset. So if all music is funded by fans and the artist is the platform, and I said this before, then companies that create tools that will empower music creators to directly engage with and monetize their audiences will win. This is the space to go. There are millions of creators. So, since this is a startup conference, I wanted to run a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is written too small for this audience. I apologize, but I'm going to go through in 9 minutes what I think. I'm going to start with the weaknesses and threats, and then we'll end on a positive note. So, okay. We're stuck. There we go. Weaknesses. Focus on reach versus genuine engagement. There is an obsession with artists that think that when they reach people, they are engaging with them. This is not the same thing. And we need to understand that engagement is a much deeper connection with fewer people. So when your post goes out and isn't being engaged with, that's a metric that you need to listen to and understand. Label and artist incentives are not aligned. They're not aligned because the labels have a different deal with the streaming services than the artists do. Always going to be that way. Streaming services and artist incentives are not aligned. Because if you look at it in its purest essence, the streaming service competes with the artist for audience. So the artist sends people there, gets minimal revenue back, most of them. Remember, 13,000 of them actually make a ton of money out of it. And the streaming services monetize at a much higher rate. They take 30% of whatever that subscription is. Social networks and artist incentives are not aligned. Mark Zuckerberg is not trying to help a bunch of artists succeed, nor is TikTok. They're trying to build their own empires on the backs of these creators. Creators have an outsized influence and are able to monetize in an inferior way to the platforms themselves. Live business favors scale over development. So interestingly enough, Will Page, who is Spotify's chief economist, made the point that it's going to become much, much harder for the smaller artists to make it through to the big ones. If you look at the largest festivals, massive headliners. So again, these are all areas that we can push into. Social media dependence is hard to break. When I quit social media 3 years ago, I received an email from a cousin of mine, and she said, I'm working up the courage to quit. Right? The number of people that have come up to me in bars when I'm the sober one and said, I'm working up the courage to quit, it's the same mechanism. We are addicted to these things. Artists are addicted to reach. So, threats. Legacy licensing frameworks are still stifle innovation. If you want to start a competitor to Spotify, table stakes to get you in the door is still too expensive for most, and even with generous Jerome, funding all the way up there is a really hard thing to achieve, and you need everything versus just a few. Is my opinion. Creators obsessed with building other people's platforms versus their own. They are obsessed. They are obsessed. If I say to a creator, hey, send me your music, they will send me a Spotify link or a SoundCloud link, neither of which allow me to give them money. I don't want to just listen. I don't listen on Spotify. You don't know what service I have. Or I'll get a link tree with 15 different options for me. Send me where I can pay you or give you data. Legacy and the tyranny, creators obsess, legacy/tyranny of charts. It doesn't matter. Unless you're at that scale, don't focus on those chart metrics. They're not important. If you get lucky and you get there, you have a different set of problems and you can optimize for those, but most are not there. Perverse definitions of success. You can have an amazing career without becoming massive. It can be really cool. The most successful artist I know makes $2 million per album cycle from 15,000 fans. You don't find his music on Spotify. He sells it to his fans directly. He flies on a private jet while others are in a van. And if you say to him, why isn't your music on Spotify? He says, because I don't make any money on Spotify. 15,000 fans through SMS make that man $2 million per album cycle. And everyone looks at him like he's crazy. Oh, SMS, text messaging. Yeah. Chasing a Web 3 strategy before having a Web 1 or 2 strategy. This is not going to get us anywhere. So please don't do that. Losing social media followings due to bait and switch / hacking / bans. So if I were a betting person, I would say that TikTok gets banned in the US this year sometime. We can argue politically if that's a good thing or a bad thing. However, I think it's going to happen due to its ownership structure. So therefore, every blog that says 5 ways to build your following on TikTok is sending artists to a loss of their own audience. TikTok will be just fine. Bait and switch is the, hey, come build on our land, and now we're going to charge you rent. That's what happened with MySpace, that's what happened with Facebook, and every artist suddenly said, hey, I built this massive following, and now I have to pay to reach them. So, and then Meta Temptation, which is the bullshit creator tools. Meta's now going to come out and say, hey, we love creators. We got this whole new metaverse we got to fill up, so we're going to build you some amazing stuff that allow us to tax you every bit, and then they bait and switch, and then you have to pay to reach. So that's it. That's the negatives. Strengths. So permission-based contacts are easy and cheap, like SMS, email, easy and cheap. The platform price is shot to the bottom. Literally no barrier to entry. Direct-to-fan monetization is easy and cheap, which means that if you send me a link, I can commit commerce directly with a device that I have in my pocket, immediately, right there and then. Barriers to entry to music creation are falling rapidly. This is going to increase diversity across those who can make music all over the world. This is an extraordinary good. It's going to blend and bend genres. Thank goodness. Influence is directly monetizable, which means if you have a platform, you can directly monetize it. Ubiquity of connection. It's always on. If I'm having a little doom scroll at 4 o'clock in the morning and Jake sends me a link to his t-shirt, I can buy it. Print on demand, it'll be sent to me a week later. Multiple revenue streams. Again, any startup, anyone can focus on any one of those potential revenue streams. Just don't focus on the ones that everyone else is pointing towards. There's so much out there. Global reach is achievable. Opportunities. So we can copy what works in other verticals. The jeans I'm wearing were crowdfunded. They didn't exist when I bought them. I got notifications from the company as they were being put together and assembled. When they landed, I loved them immediately. Not just because they fit great, but because I was part of it. That company has 49,000 people who've also crowdfunded jeans, t-shirts, you name it. Why don't artists do this? Again, I started this in 2009. It's like throwing your head against the wall. But my EP's not finished yet. I don't need it to be finished to buy it. So, technologies that are symbiotic versus parasitic will succeed. The platforms that will do really well in that massive space, right, of those 7.9 million creators are the ones that get to look the artist in the eye and say, you and I were in this together. Your success is the same as my success. Not our stock price, but together. New funding will be attracted to the music industry by top-line numbers. Goldman Sachs just made everyone's day in the startup community because they just said, hey, there's another few billion available, and they'll keep doing it. Then they might drop it a little bit to cool off valuations and push it up again. But the good news is it's attracting new money into the space, which means that more entrepreneurs will get funded. And artists, hopefully. Direct investment opportunities. I think more artists should be looked at as startups. And as with Our Man in the Field, you can invest in the platform that is the band, in the LLC that the band has created, Limited Liability Corporation. This is an immense opportunity. Solve for the many, not the few. So many of these platforms that I've seen come and go have tried to solve for those few at the top. Every NFT platform needs a Snoop Dogg, needs a Nas, needs a Beyonce in order to get their company over the line. But there's millions of other creators who are going to make fantastic businesses if they choose to go direct. Where the fuck is live streaming? I am 375 years old. I got a daughter. I'm going to sit at home. Why can't I tune into my local club and watch the bands that are playing? And then why can't I buy some merch and have it shipped to me? How fucking hard is this? Right? Why do I have to go places? So there's that. Multiple revenue streams de-risk investment. So again, an artist really is a de-risked investment if they can show the flywheel of some of those things working. And the last one, and this is perhaps the most important, music is building blocks and songs become code. In 2016, I suddenly had the epiphany that the most modern music system is still running on 30-year-old file formats. the WAV file is ancient. It is a replicable relic of the past that should be relegated to exactly that. Songs of the future are code. Songs and code can react to its environment. Code can be ported, forked, changed, remixed, adapted. And so the building blocks of creation are literally exactly that. So what I want to see is songs become code that have skills, that have actions, that can commit commerce directly. Songs can become platforms in and of themselves, but not if they're MP3s, not if they're WAV files. So the opportunity that the challenge, if you will, that I threw out back in 2016 was, let's reinvent the file format. Let's get the Fraunhofer Institute to build a new one. There's not copyable infinitely. There's no advantage to infinite copyability anymore. What if we could, each song was a parent that had a child, a child, a child, a child, a child. Every remix was trackable. Great use for blockchain technology, for example. So Artist is the platform SWOT analysis. Thank you, and thank you, Walifornia team, for your amazing work. I appreciate it. Do we have time for questions, Jerome?
Sure.
Does anyone have a question?
Yeah, so obviously you're talking about this new technological advancement, but going back, and just this gentleman, your colleague musician you mentioned, is sort of doing the very basics of what would be, if he could build what, like he's sort of away from the platforms, which is the first step.
Yeah.
Could you talk about where he is at and things he's doing, and then they're all of those that are plug-inable to these platforms that you're kind of proposing, I guess?
Yeah, so his name is Ryan Leslie, and if you look for him, you'll find his Twitter, you'll find what he'll give you his phone number and text him and watch what happens. He basically built a Salesforce for text messaging. And so what happens is when you go to when you text him, he asks you a series of questions. So he knows your birthday, he knows what city you're in, he knows your email address. And then on your birthday, he might give you a call and say, hey, it's Ryan, just want to say happy birthday. And no one picks up their phones anymore, so he just leaves a voicemail, which is much better than when everyone picks up their phone, right? And the second thing is, he knows that on your birthday, he can send you a discount. So it's like, hey, it's your birthday, congratulations, here's 20% off the merch store. He also knows what you've bought, so then he'll say, hey, thanks for buying that t-shirt. By the way, if you add a hat, it's gonna be 50% off. When he books a show, he says, hey, I'm gonna be in Glasgow. Who wants to come? People show up. So the interesting thing is he's gone backwards in one sense, but really what he's done is he knows every one of his fans. And so to him, he looks on return on attention. If he focuses on SMSing his user base, let's call it that, that's what a startup would, right? He understands how much each fan spends per year. So 15,000 fans equals $2 million. It's largely spread out upon, if you want to buy his music, you subscribe to it on his website and he texts it to you. He texts you a link in a place that you can listen. But the easiest one is if you look at Bandcamp, right? The number, like, if you ever want to see like the true power of independent in action, fire up the homepage of Bandcamp on your desktop and watch the scroll of people spending money. I was just showing an artist upstairs the Bandcamp homepage, and someone bought a $20 item for $50. And Bandcamp put a little notice that said $30 over the asking price. There's one reason why that person did that, because they can. And if they want to, they can. We have to reimagine how we price things. These jeans were 20% discounted because I crowdfunded them, all right? And I crowdfunded another pair of pants that's going to arrive in August. I'm talking about a company that I've never met anyone at, but they do a better job of engaging me for jeans than most artists do. Because most artists say, go listen to music on Spotify, and hopefully somehow that's going to translate to a show, and hopefully somehow that translates to something. What's more interesting, pants or Billie Eilish? Billie Eilish, right? And what Billie Eilish is doing. So Web 2 has not yet been mined for its full potential. Web 3 may have some potential. I'm not saying it's not there, but if we suck at Web 2, how the hell are we going to get Web 3 to happen? Is that helpful?
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, really interesting.
Cool. Anyone else? Like, he's just talked too much. Time to go.
Our man in the field.
What's that?
Our man in the field.
Oh, I'm in the field. Hey, mate. I just showed you a slide.
All right, cool.
What does your QR code link to that you had up on the?
Oh, my LinkedIn.
Oh, it's your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Cool.
I quit social media. Sorry,
LinkedIn.
so you can't trash me on there. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.